You can now hear Movie Heaven, Movie Hell on Stitcher. Stitcher is radio on demand. Listen anytime, anywhere. Stitcher is an award-winning free app that lets you listen to all your favourite shows, plus discover from 20,000 news, entertainment and sports shows. You can also create your own custom playlists. Stitcher is available on iOS, Android, Nook, iPad and in over 4 million car dashboards. It's on demand and it's on the go. No downloading, no syncing, no wasted memory. You can stream your favourite podcasts from Stitcher. Don't have Stitcher? Download it free today at Stitcher.com or in the App Store. And please leave us a review and rating on Stitcher. Thank you. Welcome to Movie Heaven, Movie Hell with me, Simon Aitken, and
I'm Keith Eyles, and we're both independent filmmakers who enjoy discussing movies, TV shows and related media. And for this podcast extra, we're really pleased to welcome back a previous guest. Welcome to the show, Claire Bueno.
Oh, hello. Thank you for having me back.
That's all right. Flying solo this time. Obviously, when you were on last, you were joined with your brother Anthony, to talk about your Ghostbusters documentary, which I guess we'll cover towards the end. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, please do. I am. It's not. It's a bit weird being on my own because we're like the dynamic duo, me and him.
Fair enough. Well, before we sort of get into today's topic, for any of our listeners that might not have heard you last time, do you want to just tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, etc.?
Oh, yeah, okay. As you said, I'm Claire Bueno. I am film and TV presenter, and I have been predominantly interviewing film talent on the red carpet for more years than I care to remember. So I've interviewed everybody from George Clooney, Tom Cruise, Kate Blanchett, to, as I keep sort of picking these names up off the floor. But I've been in a very privileged position to be able to interview all these very talented and inspiring people, as they are for me. And along with that, my brother Anthony and I, who is also a filmmaker, embarked on a journey to make a documentary to find out how the original Ghostbusters films were made. And we've been making it for 10 years. For the last 9 years, was completely self-funded out of our own pockets. And then last year we did a Kickstarter to raise the final money that we needed to be able to complete the documentary, which we're almost there for. So that's really what I'm doing. I'm predominantly an interviewer and film. I wouldn't call myself a film buff. I'm very passionate about film, and I suppose my modus operandi is to be able to share filmmaking and inspire other people to filmmake by my talking and interviewing to people who are successful and working within the industry.
Oh, sounds reasonable to me. Absolutely. And I would encourage any listeners that we've got, if you haven't checked out the previous episode with Claire and talking about Ghostbusters, please go back and listen to that one. But for tonight, one of the things we're going to get into tonight is myself and Simon are often talking about how we consume movies and TV series in today's world. And I must admit, when I used to teach, which itself was 4 or 5 years ago now, because I was teaching predominantly 16 to 19-year-olds, I always used to ask them how they watch movies, whether they go to the cinema, whether they watch them with the family, whether they stream them on a particular device, etc., just to sort of understand people's habits and whatever. So, and obviously what you want to talk to us today about today, Claire, sort of relates to that, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. Well, I think people aren't going to the cinema like they did, and I think because, like as you were saying, a lot of people are taking to streaming film, and that's the way they watch it, through, like you say, a handheld device, their laptop, or streaming through maybe Apple TV on their television. And I think we're being exposed to so much more film than we ever have done before with online streaming. And I myself subscribe to Netflix, and friends and family, we would talk, and we would spend literally more time scrolling around trying to find something to watch rather than actually watching it. So I devised this website where I basically review films that are streaming online, and it's called Netpicks Online.
Oh, very catchy. Netpicks.
Yes. Yeah. I can go into what the Netpicks actually is a little later, but that, yeah, effectively it's to encourage people to watch films, start watching rather than searching, is kind of my tagline.
Okay, well, that makes sense, because I must admit that there is, as you rightly said, there is so much material out there now. An absolute abundance of it. And myself and Simon have often talked about one of the challenges for filmmakers nowadays is not so much getting the film made, although obviously that's still very challenging, but it is actually getting an audience for the film once it's made, and having a platform where people can easily find the work, etc.
Well, I have to say that's a lot easier than it used to be. I mean, it used to be that if you made a film and you weren't able to secure distribution, then it would just sit on the shelf and nobody'd see it. Self-distribution, even though it was known, some filmmakers did do it, it was kind of rare just because of the cost of it. A good example of a filmmaker who used to self-distribute back in the day was Russ Myers. If you wanted a copy of one of his films, you actually get in touch with Russ Myers, and he would charge you a lot of money to send you out a VHS copy of the film.
In discreet packaging, no doubt.
Wow, I don't know. I think for a long time it was one of the only ways you could see Faster Pussycat Kill Kill.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. No, I haven't got a copy. I only know this because I was listening to another podcast, The Projection Booth, where they were talking. They did like a very long episode about Beyond the Valley of the Dolls. So, but that was just an example that springs to mind. But now, through these streaming services, you now are able to get your work out there if you don't have a distributor. And as a filmmaker, I think that's very good. But as a viewer, maybe not so good, because then you're faced with a whole lot of material, especially like Amazon.
That's where you come in, Claire, isn't it?
Well, precisely. I mean, because you literally, what an enviable position is that we're spoilt for choice. But you also want to be able, you don't want to invest in something that isn't very good. And I think, well, the best kind of review is a personal recommendation. And so, the whole idea of Netpicks is not to have this kind of 500 to 1,000 word, autopsy review. It literally is no more than 300 words. So it takes you no more than a minute to read. Or there's a video. So if you prefer a video, or there's I've got this green, amber, red scheme as well, which so there's like these three different ways that you can actually kind of review. If it's green, it's P for play, where that's part of the picks, which is play now, it's so good. I is for include, because it's good but add it to your playlist, and when you're in the mood to see it, and X stands for exclude from your playlist, it's not really worth the trouble. Go and watch something that's a P or an I instead. And so you've got 3 different ways to see whether you fancy watching the film or not, basically, or the TV show or the documentary. And it was just made basically to take the ease out of, like, I don't know what to watch. I can just flick on my phone. Okay, what does this movie website recommend? Oh, it recommends Stranger Things. Fine. Okay, I'll watch it. And it literally is a very simple concept. It literally is designed to get people watching and not searching.
Yeah, I mean that's a very good and valid point, actually, because like you said, we're very fortunate in the fact that we are absolutely spoilt for choice nowadays. But like you said, even though we're spoilt for choice, we still only got a finite amount of time. Nobody's got enough time. Everybody leads busy lives and whatever. And like you said, yeah, you can waste an hour. You're scrolling through things, exactly, trying to decide. So I see your point here. It's kind of a personal recommendation to get rid of some of that pain.
Completely. And touching upon what Simon has said as well, one of my other kind of things that are important to me, I suppose, is also recommending independent film that wouldn't normally be seen. I mean, something like Hunt for the Wilder People. I don't know whether you've both seen that. Taika Waititi's film, Sam Neill and Julian Nicholson, I do believe his surname is. And it's just the most enchanting film. And it's funny, and it's just full of heart. And I think most people probably wouldn't see that film. And so again, by being able to review it, I can say, you know what, I really recommend this film because it's a lot of fun, and I love it. I think it's such a superb film, but I don't think people would necessarily gravitate to watching it. You know, they might see something like War on Everyone because it's got Alexander Skarsgård and Michael Pena in it, but they may not go and see something necessarily that has got this Julian Dennison, who's an unknown actor. Sam Neill, obviously, we know from, Jurassic Park, etc. But you wouldn't necessarily watch it because he's in it. Yeah, it's just a beautiful, nuanced film that's a real love letter to New Zealand. And, Taika Waititi is a great director. He did What We Do in the Shadows.
Right.
Yes. I don't know if you've seen that. And he's the new director for the Thor 3, Ragnarok. So, right. I mean, he's come from this very kind of, this small independent film. Obviously, he's gonna be doing big things with Thor and Marvel, but you wouldn't necessarily see that film otherwise. So I think that is the beauty of having these streaming services, that there are now opportunities for us to see films that we wouldn't normally get exposure to.
Mm-hmm.
So in regards to the website then, Claire, are you having to sort of constantly review what reviews you have up there, just because the nature of streaming services where certain films aren't on there for long?
Yeah. So that would be what I would call housekeeping. So yeah, I mean, I will go and review, and then once they've been removed from the streaming service, I will categorize them from that particular service. I think I can keep the reviews there as an archive. So if people want to review that film, then they can. But yeah, I am very mindful that they only stay with these sites for so long, don't they?
Well, yes, and it's the environment out there is changing constantly. I mean, just recently Disney has said that they're pulling all their films from Netflix so that they would go on their own streaming service.
Really?
Yes.
That's interesting.
Yeah, This is very true, actually. It's a very moving landscape all the time, and you know, seems to be constantly evolving. I know now even some cinema chains are offering for you to be able to get the films on a streaming service as an alternative to actually going to the cinema to see them. So it's like a simultaneous release whereby, you know, it could be in your local cinema, but you could also log in through one of their portals and actually watch the film that way as well. So
I think the Curzon do it, don't they?
They do, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, they do. I wasn't going to mention the chain.
Oh, sorry.
Yes. No, that's fine. That's
Sorry.
cool. But yeah, I noticed it was Curzon. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, the Curzon, I think the BFI as well on certain releases. They both have like their own players on their websites. Well, I mean, this is the thing. I mean, the thing about going to cinema at the moment is that you never know what the audience is going to be like. You can go into a film and the audience is great, they enjoy the film, or you can go into see a film and the audience are all on their phones or they're chatting, or you know, it can be a really good experience or it can be a really bad experience. And I think that's kind of one of the things that's turning people off from going to the cinema. That and the fact that, you know, TVs are now getting bigger and bigger. I mean, the fact that you can have a 4K TV now in your living room, you know, showing, you know, films that are, you know, at the same, I'm trying to think of the word, same resolution as the films being projected in a cinema. You know, that's another thing that's kind of fueling this, you know, people sort of not going to the cinema.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, Keith and I, we can concur with that anyway, can't we, Keith? Because that was a very recent experience we both had.
Oh. Yeah, no, absolutely.
What happens?
Well, we went to see Planet of the Apes, didn't we?
Okay, and yes.
Oh, not Planet of the Apes. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I told somebody off because they were literally having a phone call in the middle of the film, and I was like, "What are you doing? You put that away or get out." Basically, is what I told them.
You were very polite. I have to say, more polite than I would have been.
Yeah, no, exactly. But no, I was. There's nothing I detest more than, much as I love seeing anything on the big screen and, you know, in a really good theatre and whatever. And sometimes it's great to see stuff with an audience. I mean, we've got Fright Fest coming up this week, and obviously because that's a very esoteric clique audience, if you like. You know, that's always really good fun. But you know, by the same merit, you'll go to a local cinema and people will be talking and on their phones and kicking the back of your seat and just, you know, totally disrespectful. So you're right, it does vary.
Yeah. I mean, the appeal of home cinema, I mean, it is literally becoming home cinema now, is that, you know, you can start the film whenever you want. You don't have to sit through tons of adverts. You can stop it, go to the toilet or get a drink. And, you know, those sort of luxuries you don't get in a cinema screen. But on the other point of view from that, though, is that it you know, when you have a great communal experience, I mean the cinema still provides that. You know, when you're sitting with an audience who are enjoying the film, it's a great thing. I mean, it can lift up some comedies. It can make thrillers more thrilling. You know, it's a shared
great experience, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's the thing is, though, it's I have to say, I think some of the cinema chains have a lot to blame for this sort of, you know, disregard in the cinema screen. Because, you know, before you would have an usher nearby, and so if there's a problem, you get the usher and they would sort it out, or they would even spot it before it happens. But now cinema chains don't seem to be bothered about that at all. They will, if you complain, they will just give you a free ticket. Come back another time. But they won't actually deal with it. I worked in a cinema for a short while, and we had like zero tolerance for that kind of stuff. I know what actually a projectionist ran down the stairs into a screen to have a go at a cinema goer who was on his phone, and this was back in '99.
The good old days. There you go.
But it's right. But I'm lucky enough to go to a lot of press screenings, and even the press are sat playing on their phones, and these are film press. So it's very, very frustrating. It's disrespectful.
Yeah.
To people, in the audience as well. But unfortunately, it's the sign of the times, isn't it? And I do think you are right as well with the cinema chains. I think I'm not going to mention any names, but you'll go to certain cinema chains that are for film lovers who have an appreciation for film, and you won't really get that going on. And then you go to some of the bigger chains, and you certainly have a different type of clientele that that aren't so passionate about film as an art form.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, half the time you wonder why they're in there in the first place. They don't want to have a chat or have a conversation. We'll just go down the pub.
Yeah, I know. Well, I've seen people go backwards and forwards, like getting drinks, boom, like 3 or 4 times, and just getting more and more leery and drunk. And I think I can't even remember what film that was. It might have been Skyfall or something like that. And it's like, why have you even come to the cinema? It just seems such a waste of time and money.
Yeah. I think I'm lucky. I've been spoilt somewhat by the whole BAFTA thing. You don't get anybody misbehaving then, which is a good thing. But
well, I don't know. There was a few hecklers at the Q&A last week.
Yeah. Well, sometimes you do get them as well. Yeah, but during the actual film,
generally,
they're usually fine. But the thing about the sort of home cinema and the film consumption that way is obviously that. Those benefits that you listed, Simon, they've always been kind of benefits of watching something at home. But I think the other thing nowadays is like the commuters and whatever, people are watching particularly TV series and whatever on their commute to work on a tablet or a laptop or heaven forbid, some people watch stuff on their phones, which I must admit, I'm like, oh, that makes me want to cry every time I see that. But this is the thing. It is kind of now anytime, anywhere, any place. Yeah. It's available. But Claire, what I want to ask about, if you like, your website is, because this seems like quite an undertaking in terms of where you're going to start putting these reviews. So what's been your jumping off point with this? I mean, where have you sort of started in terms of beginning to build your repository of film reviews, as it were?
Well, it's interesting because I had this kind of like this epiphany really one day of, again, off the back of everybody having the same conversation, like I'm really, not knowing what to watch. And I'd been doing this journalism course. And then that's why I thought, well, why not sort of channel this kind of love of writing and writing about film into this website. And I was mindful as well, because it is only me doing it. It needs to be manageable. So again, because the reviews are small, it's something I'll be able to regularly update and keep refreshing with new content, really. Like I say, because I'm not writing War and Peace. It's about, giving somebody a quick synopsis and, what my recommendations are, so they'll actually go and watch the film. So so far so good. It's manageable. But it's also down to, if I'm going to do something like this, it's my responsibility to make time and ensure that, I keep the content fresh so that people will come back and hopefully like what they read, basically, and see.
Okay. And is it because you've got because of your other job, the red carpet stuff, you get a lot of access to press screenings and whatever, so therefore you're able to get quite timely reviews up for things by the time they've come out on a streaming service? Is that kind of what you're doing?
No, I mean those kind of reviews will go on to, I've got a Premier Scene, premierscene.net, and it has a blog site attached to that as well. So those kind of reviews for the upcoming films go onto that site. By the time they've come out on a streaming service, I've got to watch it again, because I've seen so much stuff in the meantime. I'm never going to remember it. I've got a mind like a sieve. So it literally is my flicking through a film and watching it, or a TV show or a documentary, and going, "Oh, I like that. I'm going to write about that," or I didn't really like that very much. I mean, I suppose I shouldn't say this, but Okja was one that was a new release and a Netflix original that I personally didn't enjoy that much. So I had to be honest about that. But the film has an incredible social conscience. So that for me, the film is worth watching, and therefore I will recommend it to be watched, because I do think people need to know about mass consumerism and the way that food has been genetically modified. And it's got an incredible social conscience, even though the film itself wasn't to my taste. No, it literally is. I've disassociated what I do on the red carpet and with upcoming films to Netflix. Because you don't really know when they're going to come out on a streaming service anyway.
And we don't know how long they stay on there for.
Exactly.
I have to say the one complaint I'll have about streaming services is it never has that one thing you want to watch. It's like, I think the first time I had access to Netflix, I thought, I wanted to watch a Tony Scott film and could not for the life of me find it. And it's that thing where they have it's this weird thing, because it's studios and they dish out these licenses for some of their films, not all of their films, and it's so there's always going to be that film that they won't have. Or another thing they do, which I always find annoying, is that they'll have one film in a series of films, but they won't have the others. So so say if you watched Nightmare on Elm Street and you wanted to watch part 2, they won't have it. But then when part 2 comes along, they won't have part 1's gone and part 3's not there either. And it's just it's this weird system at the moment.
Kind of discontinuous. Oh, I don't know.
I don't know whether that's to do with rights issues or what, or whether it's one of these. I mean, one of the things they do that's still really annoying, and I mean, this goes back to the sort of DVD days, and is still, the case even with streaming, is this whole idea of regionalizing. Areas of the world where you can and can't get access to certain things. And again, that's purely from a sort of way of monetizing it and keeping control of where things get released first, and whether they sort of milk that marketplace before opening it out and things of that nature. But I guess as time goes on, this is all going to become more and more blurred and more sort of transparent with those boundaries, I guess, you know?
I think so, because it's still this is relatively a new concept for us all, isn't it, really? So it's going to be constantly changing and evolving.
Well, yeah, I mean, they've sort of followed the same path as the music industry. So the whole idea of now that you can listen to music wherever you want, whenever you want. You don't have to buy the actual album or track. You can just stream it. So my question to you guys is what do you think the future is of streaming or the cinema, or how do you guys see where it's going to go with all this?
That's a very good question. I mean, I think is a real positive from streaming services is that you can make films now that wouldn't necessarily be that would do well in the box office, but at least you're able to make the film and the story be told.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether you guys have noticed this. Again, I'm going to kind of reference Netflix, but Plan B, which is Brad Pitt and Jennifer Aniston's production company, they specifically make films that they know wouldn't normally get made and tell stories that wouldn't normally get made. And I've noticed that Plan B have done a couple of Netflix originals. So whether they're all partnering up, so I like the idea that you guys like Simon, with your film, you could actually when your film's made, it can get out there and be seen to an audience. It can find a platform, whereas finding a distributor to pick it up when you haven't got Tom Hardy attached to it is like nigh on impossible for a new filmmaker.
Well, I think with distributors, it's a case of finding the right one, because I personal experience with Blood and Roses was the fact that I was approached by many distributors, but none of them seemed to be the right fit, and that's me putting it politely.
Yeah.
There's a lot of distributors, and they just, I didn't think they would serve the film very well.
Yeah.
But then, of course, then those offers stopped, and then I was like, well, what do I do? And then, thankfully, I was able to get the film up onto Amazon, initially selling it as a DVD, and now on their streaming platform. So, there is a way now for people to see it. And of course, now with my next film that I'm, close to finishing, Amazon is certainly going to be part of my plan for that film. I don't want to go into many details at the moment because it's still being finalized, but it will end up on Amazon, at the end. Will it? But the sad part of that is that it will probably just be streaming. There won't be like a physical copy of it. Yeah. Which I find kind of sad, because I still like holding the film in my hand. I still like, the tactile, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, I like Blu-rays because it's there, and if I feel like I want to watch it, I can just pop it in the player, and I can, off I go. As you say, with streaming services, you got to sit there and you got to go through everything, and you do end up looking at it for hours. I know. I've spent many a Sunday evening just, looking at what films there are. And a lot of the time, there isn't that many films being added. So you just keep seeing the same old films all the time.
Exactly. Yeah. Again, this is where kind of Netflix online comes in, because it's like, well, it takes the ease out of that, really. The other thing I'm going to put to you guys as well, because I know you'll love your bonus features, is once we lose the physical medium, what happens to all those wonderful bonus features that we all like watching on a Blu-ray?
Yeah. I think that's where I think in terms of the question Simon posed about the future of it, I mean, as we've said, everything's changing very, very fast. There are many different sort of consumption models out there now. But at the end of the day, from a distributors and from a studio point of view, etc., that there still needs to be a revenue stream with this stuff. And I think that I'm obviously a Blu-ray collector myself. I haven't quite gone to UHD or 4K yet, but I do indeed like my physical copy and extras, and I do actually think of Blu-ray and UHD and even DVD as being sort of the collector's medium, if you like. But I think one of the things we will see with the streaming services, etc., is obviously the quality is only going to get better. I mean, a lot of them are doing things in 4K or certainly high def, moving towards 4K going forward. And I think maybe there will probably be a situation where bonus material, bonus content, commentaries, deleted scenes, behind the scenes documentaries, etc., will probably be available in some sort of streaming method as well, I guess, in the future.
I suppose so. Maybe you package it in some sort of way.
Well, yes. I mean, I think we kind of see it at the moment where the big documentaries, so like Dangerous Days, the documentary about Blade Runner, or You're So Cool, Brewster, which was the crowdfunded documentary about Fright Night. We will see those big ones up on streaming services as a separate thing. I think Apple...
And they're films in their own right, aren't they?
Yeah, they are indeed. But I mean, Apple kind of was doing it for a bit, where some of the releases, they actually had bonus material on iTunes. So, I think there is a way of doing it. And of course, if the studios aren't interested, then there's always YouTube. I mean, the filmmakers themselves can put that material out, so that people can watch it. I mean, at the moment, there is, quite a lot of stuff on there that, people have made themselves, as well as ripping off material off DVDs.
But that the interesting thing that you mentioned there with YouTube, because I was talking to a friend of mine who was talking about the Leonardo DiCaprio documentary After the Flood.
Oh, right.
And yes, yeah.
Yeah, and that's out there on YouTube for people to see. Again, it's a film with a social conscience that wants to spread the word, and it's not about making money. It's about people need to know what's going on our planet. And so places like YouTube, are great platforms for that, isn't it, really?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think this is the other thing that's going to start becoming more and more prevalent, I'm sure, moving forward is yes, there are now many different platforms. I mean, it's this whole sort of convergence, if you like, of IT and entertainment and the internet, etc. But a lot of these content providers are going to start creating and producing their own content as well. I mean, obviously we've got it with Netflix, we've got it with Amazon. Not just TV shows, but big movies in some cases. And I am sure that Apple and Google will jump on that marketplace, in the near future. I'm certain of it,
I want to say about that is the fact that Netflix and Amazon at the moment have jumped into that middle market that's been abandoned by Hollywood.
That's right.
The kind of films that used to be made for 4 million upwards to about 50 million are being now made by Netflix and Amazon, and I'm sure a few other places as well. And I think they're seeing the benefit of that, because at the moment Hollywood's just concentrating on these big films that cost lots and lots of money, and I would say obscene amounts of money. And the thing is, they're seeing a lot of flops at the moment. I don't know. I don't think it's been a very good summer this year, box office wise. And the thing is, these films are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's going to get to a point where Hollywood is going to have to change, or it's going to implode.
Yeah.
Because it can't keep spending all this money on films and just hoping that they get these big returns back.
Yeah.
Because the more money they put into it, the bigger the return is, and it's going to get to a point where it's never going to make that amount of money.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I think as well is that the bonus of these sort of streaming services creating, their own work, so to speak, is that it is generating, more avenues and more work for filmmakers, actors and people behind the camera as well. It's not just Hollywood making films. It's, that there are other avenues now that are generating work, paid work for the industry. We just need to have it a bit more over here.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Well, I have to say, there's a lot more. I know with Netflix series, a lot of them are being shot over here. I know.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah.
That's not just the Marvel ones.
No, just not the Marvel ones. There's a lot of like TV series and stuff, especially when it's because the American market is historical dramas, especially British ones.
Yes, yeah.
Well, there is a lot of good British drama being produced at the moment. Whether it's by BBC or ITV or whoever. There are lots of. They seem to be going for this, sort of 3 to 6 episode model. And often it is a one-off, so it's not necessarily a continuing series. It will be a 3 to 6 episode one-off drama. So a sort of 3 to 5 hour almost like movie, as it were. And there's some really good, particularly sort of in the crime and in the thriller genre. There's a lot of really good stuff being produced out there at the moment.
The writing's really strong, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. So, it is by all intents and purposes a growth industry, which is good. But, I think in the world we live in, the industry is under pressure from the changes in technology and the consumer changes that's brought with it. And this is the thing. It's all very well having all these platforms and all this content, but people still rely on word of mouth. They still rely on reviews. They still rely on advertising and what they know and what they're comfortable with, which is all the more reason why an idea like Netflix, I think
exactly.
If you can get the word out there and people can start using it, then it might introduce them to new things, and I think that's what it's always about.
Yes, it is. Yeah, exactly. And the beauty as well is that you can take a risk with watching something that you wouldn't necessarily watch, because where you wouldn't probably do that if you went to the cinema, because go to the cinema here in London, it's what, £15.
More sometimes.
More, isn't it? Yeah. So yes, it is. I mean, when we went the other week, it was more. So, you can take a risk. I mean, ultimately, it's all about seeing new stories and being entertained, isn't it? And I think you can afford to take a risk in watching something that you wouldn't normally watch, because what have you got to lose? And you might actually enjoy it. You'll watch a foreign language film that you probably wouldn't go to the cinema to watch. And why watch it? Because it's really good. Because you know what? In Scandinavia, they make great films.
They do.
you know.
Absolutely.
So hopefully, you know, this will only open up people to allowing themselves to explore film in a way that they would never have done before. And I think that's exciting.
Right. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that's important to sort of note at this stage then, Claire, is what you're offering here as a sort of service with NetPicks. It is a free of charge thing. Is that correct?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay.
It's just a website.
So
just a review website.
Okay.
It won't cost them a bean.
And it's already launched, has it?
It's already launched. I launched it not last Sunday, the Sunday before. So it's very, very new. So I really want lots of followers and subscribers and people spreading the word.
Well, we'll put a link up on the Facebook page and with the and with this podcast.
Yes, please. Yeah. Thank you.
So how many reviews have you got on there currently then?
I've only got I think I've got 9 or 10.
Okay.
So very small at the moment. I know, but that will
Rome wasn't built in a day, was it?
Rome wasn't built in a day, and it is only little old me. And I did build the website as well, I hasten to add.
Oh, wow, okay.
So, yeah, it's been a complete... But don't let that put you off. It looks pretty impressive, even though I say so myself.
Fair enough.
But that doesn't sound very good, does it? I mean that in the most modest way. I'm very proud of it.
Okay.
And like I'm blowing my own trumpet.
No. But that's why you're on here. Blow away with me. Absolutely. But just to reiterate then, so people can read a short review, or they can watch a short video review, or they can go buy your PIX lollipop system. Is that right?
Absolutely, okay. Yeah. And if it's green, it's play. Watch now because it's brilliant. If it's it's include, so just pop it on your playlist. And X is to exclude. Don't put it on your playlist. Just watch something else instead. Fair
enough. Sounds good.
So literally, it's the traffic light system: green, amber, and red.
Right. Yes, which is universal and we can all relate to. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Not to mention a catchy title as well. So there you
go. I
know.
I sometimes I even surprise myself.
So, Claire, wanted to ask, how is the documentary coming along?
It's going really well. Since we spoke to you guys last. When we spoke to you guys last, we were mid Kickstarter, weren't we?
Yes,
you were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the kind of I will give you the sort of short version of the events. We did get the money that we asked for, though it was literally by the skin of our teeth. It's probably the most nerve-wracking thing I've ever done in my life. A Kickstarter. Talk about an adrenaline rush. But we got there. We went to America. We filmed the final interviews. Apart from Bill Murray, who has said that he will do it, but as yet is yet to sit down and talk to us. But it was a very successful trip. And we since coming back, we've literally been editing. There's been a bit of change in personnel behind the scenes, which has caused a little bit of a delay. But what we decided to do was separate the documentary into 2 parts. So it'd be part 1, which is about Ghostbusters, and part 2, which is about Ghostbusters 2. And I hope my brother doesn't mind me saying this, but at the moment, Ghostbusters part 1, is sitting at 2.5 hours long. So that's why it's taken such a long time to get to this point. But oh my God, and I can say this because I have had nothing to do with the editing, the fan service that is going to pay off. You wouldn't believe. I mean, it's just Derek, who's now doing the motion graphics, as well as Anthony with the editing. they're in such a synergy, and because they know the content and the material and they love it so much, that there's just so much love gone into this. So I can only apologise it's taken longer than we anticipated, but it will be worth the wait. And there will be a 90-minute version that we intend to screen. We wouldn't expect people to sit in a cinema for 2.5 hours, but there will be a 2.5-hour version that we intend to release, on Blu-ray and DVD.
Right, I was going to ask that. So there is still the plan based on what we've been talking about tonight. There is still the plan.
Yes,
the
absolutely.
Physical version of this to be released. Yeah.
If Anthony could do a VHS, he would. That's how much fan service he would pay. The battered container, the battered cardboard container, and all. But yeah, no, definitely. That was all part of the Kickstarter. We have every intention of honouring, the incentives that, that people kindly invested into. But, we are nearly there. We're almost at the end. It was a bittersweet experience for Anthony to send over the last sort of part of the edit for Derek to do the motion graphics, but we're almost there now.
Excellent.
Fair enough.
And are we going to see you at Fright Fest this year?
You are, yes. You can tell the excitement in my voice, can't you? I love Fright Fest. I mean, it's such a community of film lovers, isn't it? Just, there's no kind of snobbery. It's filmmakers and fans all in one room, sharing space and sharing a love of a genre. So I will be there on the red carpet interviewing the filmmakers. And I'm really looking forward to it. Don Mancini's back, isn't he, with Chucky?
Yeah.
He's opening night. We've got Jason Fleming with his new film he's gone into directing now. So I'm really looking forward to it, actually, and it's just such a wonderful community. And we're back at, I'm going to call it the Empire. I know it's called Cineworld, Leicester Square, but it's back at the Empire. It's back home as far as I'm concerned. Are you guys looking forward to it?
Yes.
No, absolutely. I've got my my pass for the event, and I've booked into some of the Discovery screens, a few of which are over in the Prince Charles Cinema, so we should mention that as well. And it's good. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. Me too. So it doesn't have to be a hot bank holiday. It'd probably be better if it isn't, because I won't feel like I'm missing the sunshine, because we'll be inside for most of it. But it's a wonderful event, and I think if you love film, definitely check out Fright Fest.
Indeed. I've just got to make sure I don't spend too much money at the Arrow video counter, which is usually where I come unstuck at Fright Fest every year.
Just don't take your rucksack.
Indeed.
Are there any films that you guys are particularly looking forward to seeing?
Well, for me, one of the beauties of Fright Fest is I'll be honest, I'm a bit lazy. I don't do a massive amount of research beforehand, because I kind of like not knowing much at all, and then either being, pleasantly surprised or unpleasantly surprised in some cases. But rather than getting too excited about a particular thing up front, I tend to try and go in not knowing. It's the other thing I also like at the other end of the spectrum about the awards voting season is often the film will come out before I know much about him, other than maybe who's directed it, and that can be a good thing, because you get that pure experience, where you're not jaded or swayed by any reviews or anything of that nature. So but then again, maybe it's just because I'm lazy and I haven't done my homework. I don't know. What about you, Simon?
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing Mayhem, which is the new film by Joe Lynch, just because I used to follow the Movie Crypt podcast, and so I've sort of heard about the making of it, and and so it's something I've sort of been looking forward to seeing for a while. And it's good to have Joe Lynch and Adam Green come back. They've been away for a while, so we've got Mayhem. We've got the 10-year anniversary of Hatchet, which I know you're really keen to see, Keith.
Yeah, I must admit I'll be avoiding that. But, I've got the other films booked for that night. Sorry,
well, I'll definitely be
some
there.
Of their other work, but I'm not a Hatchet fan. I have to be honest.
Yeah, and also you have the Kane Hodder documentary as well, which knowing about his life being a stuntman and everything, it will be rather good. So. That's another one. And then with the majority of the rest, it is a case of I don't really know much about them, so I look forward to finding out what they're like, if they're good, they're bad, or they're ugly.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of guilty pleasures, obviously I know some of the stuff that's coming, and I got to be honest, I'm looking forward to Chucky. I'm looking forward to Leatherface. I'm looking forward to those good old slasher monsters that I grew up on. Watching home video, and what sort of got me into the franchise in the first place. Because in the 80s we were bang in the middle of the slasher films, if you like, what with the Halloween, Friday the 13th, the Psycho sequels,
Nightmare on Elm
Texas
Street,
Chainsaw, Nightmare on Elm, all of those things. So I kind of find silly as it can be sometimes, I find Chucky a lot of fun. And Texas Chainsaw obviously has its highs and lows, obviously the original movie being amazing, but this is going to be some sort of new take on a prequel story about Leatherface. So, could be interesting. So I'm not going to lie. I'm excited about those things for sure.
Well, I'm sure we'll be doing a Fright Fest podcast to talk about the films we saw and what we thought of them.
Exactly. Yeah. They're not going to be in the BAFTA season, are they? Let's be honest. But there's room for all of it. It's all good. Yeah,
it is. It is. I'm surprised actually. It might be nice for you guys to get some of the Fright Fest organisers on.
Oh, possibly, but I know they're very busy that weekend.
Oh well, they will be. Yeah. No, I think they'll have their hands tied, won't they?
Oh yeah, and I think it's a bit too late to try and get an interview with them, just because there'll be many other podcasts and other sort of bloggers and stuff trying to get their ear. So.
Well, we're going to have, Mike Tack, Clive Ashenden, Jason Bourne, etc., to name up just a few that are going to be some of our previous guests and whatever that are going to be at Fright Fest. So, I'm sure it'll be. We'll have a jolly old time.
And you've got people like Jake West. He's got he's got a new film out, hasn't he? And he's a very personable man.
Yeah.
Have you met Jake West?
Oh, I know Jake.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, he's great.
He's a sweet guy.
Yes. I'm a big fan of his Video Nasties documentaries.
Oh yes. Yeah.
Yes, it's somebody we've tried to get onto the podcast, and I'm sure we'll get him on here at some point. It's just the timings.
To the long list.
Yeah, it was just the timing's never been that great.
But that's the problem, isn't it? With everybody making films, it's not the most sociable of hours, as we all know.
Yeah, we definitely know.
Absolutely.
So, Claire, so what's the name of the what's the address that people can go to find?
It's www.netpics.online.
Okay.
And then if I'm on Facebook and Twitter with Netpics Online, as well.
And also, Premier Scene has a website as well.
It does, yeah. That's where I've got all my red carpet interviews, and that's www.premierscene.net. Premier with an E, as in premiere. There we go, a little bit of flair. Premierscene.net. And the Ghostbusters documentary is buenoproductions.com. But if you go to the Facebook and look for Ghostbusters doc, then it's everywhere.
Okay.
Spread the word, folks. Spread the word.
Please. And thank you. Can I just thank you both so much for having me on and allowing me to spread the word about my new site. So I really appreciate your support, guys. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
We've all got to help each other.
We have, haven't we? Well, it's a poor show if we can't.
Exactly.
Indeed. And on the subject of that, Simon, I think it's pretty important, particularly based on what today's subject has been, to just reiterate to folks that your feature film, Blood and Roses, is indeed available through one of these streaming services. Is that correct?
That's correct. It is available on Amazon Prime. It is available in the UK, the US, Germany, and Japan, and so you can stream it. You can buy a copy, or you can get the DVD. The DVD is only available from the US, but it is a region 0 disc, so it will play in any region. So
no restrictions on that bad boy.
Exactly.
And I believe it includes extras as well, right? Including
no,
the
unfortunately,
and the behind the scenes.
No. That's a special.
I've got does.
The special edition is only available through myself.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So if people want a copy of the special edition, they have to find me out.
Wow. Okay.
Oh,
yes.
Cryptic.
Well, no, I don't have a platform for selling it at the moment. At the time when I did the disc for Amazon, I think there was some restrictions on what you could put on there, including like bonus material stuff. So, hence why it's a vanilla disc in the States, but over here it's an all singing, all dancing version.
Yeah.
It's
because they didn't want to rate it, I expect.
Well, it's not that, because in the US the DVDs and VHS is unrated. There isn't a rating system on those. There's only a rating systems on films that are shown in the cinema. So it is kind of funny when you see these US discs that says the unrated cut, but they're all unrated cuts.
Yeah, I know over here, often with,
yes,
geek about extras, but we don't always get all of the extras that you get on the US editions, and that is simply because they do have to go through our rating system, and as a result, sometimes that means an extra expense, and sometimes it's just quicker to put stuff out vanilla than give us all the bells and whistles, which always makes me very upset, because I want all the bells and whistles, being a completist, and a film nerd.
Enthusiast
indeed.
Aficionado.
Always makes it sound that much better, doesn't it?
Yes.
Indeed. So, Keith, where can we find your work?
Oh, well, yes, for my work, nothing quite as glamorous, I'm afraid. But if you go to YouTube and put in British Eyles, spelled E-Y-L-E-S, as in my last name, there are half a dozen short films that I wrote, produced and directed with little money for your viewing pleasure. And then if you want to see anything else I've been involved in, if you put my name into IMDb, I am the only Keith Eyles on there, I believe. You can see what I've worked on, both in front and behind the camera.
And as always, you can find my work at independentrunnings.com. I've never really spoken much about the website, but for those who visit the website, not only do you get to see the shorts and trailers for the features I've made, but there's also a making of blog for each one. So, which includes for Blood and Roses, there's a whole sort of shooting diary that I originally wrote as part of another website, a blog that followed the day-to-day making of that film called My First Film. So I've never really sort of, spoken about that, but you can see
Well, now's the time.
Yes, now is the time.
Absolutely. This is the most appropriate episode to do that on.
But yes, so you can watch the films, you can find out how they were made, you can see behind the scenes stills, and also you can listen to this podcast. Other ways you can listen to this podcast is via iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, and all good podcast providers. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Just search Movie Heaven, Movie Hell. And please leave us a rating and review on iTunes and Stitcher. It all helps.
Yeah, spread the word, folks.
I will gladly do that. Thank you.
So it just leaves us to say thank you to Claire.
No, thank you.
Thank you, Claire.
It was our pleasure. And thank you to you, the listener, for listening to this podcast. And join us for the next episode of Movie Heaven, Movie Hell.